My name is Tazz. I live in Austin, Texas, and I am a full-time performance artist as of the last year, and I've been a flow artist of all the varieties for the last 10. On Instagram, it's Tazz Spin Stuff, and then Facebook, it's Colin Tazz De Leon. I started when I was 16 years old. Probably 2 years before that, I was just sitting on the top of my apartment complex, and I looked down and there was some dude spinning fire in a parking lot, and I had no idea what it was, but I was like, man, that's cool. I've got to figure that out. And then years later, a couple friends of mine were playing with glow sticks, and people in my high school were spinning poi, and I was like, it was just a couple of them, and I was like, oh, that's what that was. I've got to go figure that out. And so I started YouTube tutorials and just like finding things, and it was kind of a struggle back then to like find just tutorials, and then the big struggle was, what do you learn next, right? I feel like nowadays there's so much content that you know what is the next thing. So anyway, I started poi or glow sticks at the time, and then contact staff around the same time. A lot of the stuff that I was doing when I was like 16 to 19 was just very like rave related, and I was partying all the time, and I was also selling drugs. And I was selling drugs, like a lot of drugs. And it was the business that I was in. It was what I was doing. I didn't really have like family after adulthood, and so there wasn't like college or any sort of like route. So I was doing, warehouse jobs, and I got super miserable, and I was like, all right, this works out. So I was like doing drugs all the time, so I knew all the people, and it worked out. Anyway, 2015 comes, and I got arrested, and I did 3 years in federal prison for like, I don't know, some amount of LSD. It was nuts. I couldn't spin poi, I couldn't do anything. It was a crazy experience. I've got all this trauma and shit from it. But I got out, and I was just doing like construction, and all these things were weighing me down. Probation was like, had me by the neck, and I just, I was so anxious. Like I'd do one slip up and I'm gone, right? And so I'm just like grinding away at these jobs that I'm just like miserable, and the people that are working with me are the same people that were also just getting out of prison, and so it's just like that low energy vibe. I met Nick, the guy that I'm helping throw this festival with, and he started introducing me to the community, and that's really when I first started having a exposure to the community. Was through Nick Pride, and then he introduced me to all these people throughout Dallas, and then I knew a couple of them, and they were performing. I just kind of started picking their brains, like, how does this work? What is it? Like, what do I need to know? And they told me to learn other props, work on, musicality, stage presence. And one day I got into this like dinner club that they were working at, and I did like a stage show, and it was on an audition. I had this thing choreographed, and I brought it to them, and they hired me on, and I was doing 3 nights a week there. And for like a month, I was doing like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but I was leaving work at like 5 or 6 o'clock to go over to this bar, to stay there till 2 a.m., to wake up at 5. And I was like driven by the like, this is what I want to do. I love this, but I don't feel like secure enough to only do this yet. One day I just quit. I was like, fuck all this. I've always hated having a job. That's why I sold drugs. Like, I just don't like working for the man. I grew up in like a abusive military household, and so I think systems and we just clash. And so, yeah, I quit my job. I was doing 3 nights a week there, and it was just like enough to scrape by, but I wasn't like miserable all the time, and it was just the payoff. And so then that probably lasted for about 6 months. The club got shut down. It was called Don't Tell Supper Club, and it was a really unique experience. It was this place where people would come and they would buy tables, and there was like fancy food and drinks and bottle service, but then there was all these stage shows, from like aerial acts to fire spinning to like circus hooping, comedy, jugglers. And it was really inspiring to like get to be around all those people, and some of them were just really drilling it into me. Like, what are the things that I need to pay attention to? What are the things that I'm doing wrong? And they were brutal with it. Like, hey, this is all the things you did wrong. You need to go out there and do this, this, and this. And I was like, whew, it hits the ego, it hits the heart. But without all that, I wouldn't be here. And like some of the people that come to mind is like Frank Chapman, who's like an amazing aerialist. Marcos Rangel is like an amazing poi spinner, juggler. Tay Cam Durandacorn. They're all out of like Dallas, Texas. But I feel like without them kind of teaching me these like base kind of places of performance art, I would still be just like a flow artist. And that's been something that has been coming in the last so many years is like how to tell the difference and how to define the difference. Like, what are the real differences there, right? What's the purpose? Are you trying to entertain someone? Are you trying to entertain yourself? And I think that's a lot of what it really comes down to. But yeah, and I was just driven. I was driven by the fact that like I hated this like 9-to-5 labor wage thing. I was fueled by like this rage of like the judicial system in place to kind of like keep you down, because they just, you know, only give you access to these like shit jobs. And that's just how recidivism works, in my opinion, is that you only have access to these shit jobs. You hate them, so then you go back to doing the crimes you were doing, and then you end back up in the same place, which endlessly is what they want because it's a business. And so I was driven by this, like, I don't want to be a statistic. I want to break free of it. And at the same time, like, I want to do what I love. And so I was just super broke for a lot of years, and I would do like, go in and out of like high peaks of gig work and then trying to find like other gig work. I've done like stagehand stuff in the meantime, or maybe sometimes I will go back and get another job. When the pandemic happened, that's what I had to do. But then I moved to Austin in 2020 during the pandemic, and I moved there with like the intention to perform. And then everything shut down, got really depressed, had to get a job. And it worked out, but then like this, I feel like the second things started lifting, I felt like that same crave, and I liked that job. It was like this hippie kind of grocery store. Everyone was real open-minded. No one ever yelled at you, like, and it just came to show me that I just don't like jobs. Even if they're normal, or if they're nice, or if they're mean, like I just don't like them at the end of the day. So once the vaccine came out and things started happening again, especially in Texas, we opened up really fast. I felt that same feeling, and I was like, no, I have to go. And I did, and I just started doing the same thing I did in Dallas. It just took a long time, because I feel like once you go somewhere, you have to establish yourself, and you're like, people have to get to know you, entertainment companies, clients, you have to build those repetitive clients. And so it took a little while, and I feel like it's just now kind of coming into fruition. That is kind of what I left behind in Dallas, was like the clients that were already there, the establishment that was already there. But sometimes I still go back and do work there. Especially now, so more so lately, that once again everything's kind of coming back into fruition. But it was great. I feel like Austin really gave me the push that I needed to like take things to the next level. I was instantly surrounded by just amazing performers, and we're in Dallas, everyone's real spread out, and I feel like I was even only then surrounded by like 3 or 4, and now I'm just surrounded by so many, and so I'm just constantly feeling driven. I've gotten to do some really cool opportunities. In the last year, I did the Texas Renaissance Festival, and we did this giant fire show with this group called Solar Rain, and they take the jousting pit that's in the Texas Renaissance Festival, and we put on a fire show there, and there's like an audience of 10,000 people. We get to use like props that are just ridiculous. There's like fire cubes. My favorite moment was like I got to do a fire mop scene every time, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a mop and it lights on fire, and it's crazy. But it was cool. I really got to like hone in on like my choreography skills and working with a group like that, and the experience was great. And then yeah, I market, I book, I do a couple things a month, and it gets me by, and I still have other little side gigs that I play off of. They say like entrepreneurship, you're supposed to have like 3 to 5 sources of income, and so I try to maintain that. So when one falls, the other one goes, because you know, gig season does come in waves and lulls. But at the end of the day, it's what I want to do, and I've just been really having more epiphanies and thoughts like the last couple months, like, oh wow, it's been like a year since you quit your job, and you haven't got another job, and you have been sustaining yourself, because sometimes you're just counting pennies and scraping by, and you're like, it takes a second to be like, oh wait, I am actually making money. I partook in a lecture from Richard Hartnell at Texas Flow Fest in 2019, and there was this big panel discussion about like what flow state is, and I really like kind of, I don't know if it was his definition or like the rounded kind of definition that everyone came to, but this is what I always talk about it as, is the area between effort and ease. There's like a science behind it that I felt like was really cool, and it's like the space in between effort and ease. And the logic behind that is that if you're doing too much of something that's eased, you're gonna feel bored, right? And you're like, oh, okay, I'm bored with this, so I'm just doing it, it's easy. Like if I was just sitting here doing waist wraps or something, right? I'd be bored in 10 seconds, right? And then if you're just doing things that are so incredibly hard that you're just squinting to focus on them and struggling to get the tricks every time, or constantly dropping, you're gonna feel like this discouragement of like, ugh, I'm not getting what I want, or you're just so focused on this that you're not like having fun or flowing. And so finding that middle ground of things that are like easy enough or like maybe feeling intermediate to you, and then also having them be hard enough where you have to have like all your focus there, right? Because if something's so easy as well, your mind will wander, right? If I'm like doing a 3B weave right now, I can sit and I can think about my entire life story and have this whole conversation. But if I'm trying to do like double folding lines or something, I need all of my focus for that, right? But would that be too much focus? It really depends on where you're at with your own skill level. So finding where that area is for you, I feel like not only puts you in that flow state, but does also help you get more comfortable with those kind of like harder concepts and like moving through them because you're just in this flow with them currently. And so I feel like, to me, that's what flow state is scientifically, and then like the whole little description of like meditation behind it. My favorite thing to do is be in a fire circle of a bunch of people, and we're all just like carelessly having the time of our life, like sharing all the stuff that we've been working on with the people that we love, with the people we love to see what they're working on, and just that collective space of coming together really is what drives me a lot. Just finding people that you're able to connect with over this like shared bond is really great. And then it's beautiful when you're able to connect with people past that. I do feel like sometimes that seems to be an issue for some people, or even myself, is like connecting deeper with people in the flow arts community. I feel like a lot of us do use it to kind of put this like wall up and be like, I am just props, right? And I just know tech. But I really love when I get to talk to people about, you know, what's going on in life? Like, how was the last couple of years for you? Like, what kind of things do you deal with? And I think that's what communities are for, is to provide that space for everyone to open up and be vulnerable. And then also provide the support or give the support that those people might need. So that's what inspires me, is this community that's come together over us playing with toys. You know, I had this really fast style for a while. I was like, all right, it's kind of getting a little sloppy. Like, let me adapt this slow style. And now I've really tried to combine both of them. And then on top of that, like try to add performance art aspects to all of it in general. Like, I mean, I feel like the first time I heard about Flow on Fire, it wasn't anything like super specific. You know, I was just browsing, looking through different props. And I loved the variety that they had. I feel like since I started so young, like I really remember when it was just socks and tennis balls, glow sticks on shoelaces, denim pants on dog chain, right? Like, and when I got like really into it, I was like, oh, I want to know all of the things. I want to try all the ropes, all the handles. That was something that they were able to offer. They would, you know, send me cuts of rope, and you can order individual cuts of rope, and the way they crimp them and have the whole like plug and play system, I was able to just try it for not the whole price of another poi every time, right? And that really like helped me figure out like what I want and what I like about all these different options that we now have, which when most people look at them are like super overwhelming, which is great. Now I love that I know that and that I have all that knowledge, because when people are also overwhelmed by that, I'm like, oh, this is what I liked for that. And so it was really just a shopping experience that went well. And then after that, there just like wasn't a reason to go anywhere else. I guess I wanted sponsorship because of like all the great people in like the team. And I've like always looked up to those people, and to be considered like right there with them is really sweet. And especially now, like, I mean, I've already been like jamming and talking to a few of them, but getting to just be in that like collaborative level of, oh, we could put something together, or what do you think about this trick? And just like having that more personal relationship with all these people that I've just like thought were dope on the internet is super sweet. Yeah, so my favorite part about being on the Flow on Fire team, I think, is, yeah, just being able to like jam with everybody like virtually across the country, like being in the group chats and talking with all these people that I've been inspired by. Also, like the extra gear is really nice, and also just like representing that form of quality, I think feels like really validating for me, and I don't ever feel like any hesitation in being like, no, like this is what you want, this is who you want to go with. I feel like I've always tried to take some sort of like leadership role within the community ever since I found it. I just instantly felt like it's already, like the second I joined it, I feel like it instantly gave me so much that I instantly felt this need to want to give back. So I was, you know, always helping set up the events and fire circles and volunteering to safety if like they needed it, just like whatever it was, hosting park jams, showing up, showing people tricks, right? And like I said, to this day, people know that if we're hanging out, like Tazz is gonna show them a trick. And it's just like what I pride myself in is like really trying to just give back as much as I can. I've been organizing Flow Storm with my buddy Nick Pride for the last 6 months. And that's probably the biggest thing that I've done for the community. Yeah, I definitely have had like so many people that have like paved the way for me to be able to even be in this position. And then just other people that I haven't even met that have just inspired me entirely. But like shout out to Nick Pride, best friend, helped me through all of this, has also just been like the most amazing friend to stand by. All the people that helped me in the beginning with like the Don't Tell Club and my first gig, like Take Andronicorn, Marcus Rangel, Frank Chapman, and then just like all the people who have contributed and inspired like the style that I really try to go off of, like Vojta and Darren Waller and Ashley Galliford and Nikki Evers. And then honestly, like people like Connor and Tim Goddard, and those are the first two that really come to mind. You're welcome, Connor, for grouping you with Tim Goddard. Yeah, and it's just been inspiring, man. And also just like the other organizers and people who put these kind of festivals together all over the country. I think of like Admiral and Sam Stefano and Kevin Axtell and Noel Yee. Like y'all are just also bringing this whole thing together throughout the entire country, and it's just a blessing. So yeah, thanks everyone.